Coffee and Cannabis.
Now we're back at it.
And now we're back at it. I know, that's what I was going to say earlier. I'm like, do you guys recognize this? Do you remember? Where were you when Coffee and Cannabis went off air for a few weeks? It's one of those things, you know. Yes. It's very much like Princess Diana's death. You know where you were.
Yeah.
And when Monday rolled around and silent.
What's going on? No Coffee and Cannabis. The fuck?
How am I supposed to enjoy my week now? And then you had a terrible Christmas because you missed our faces.
Yeah,
you missed our beautiful
it's so depressing.
Faces, and I'm sorry.
But it is now 2021,
and we're gonna make up for everything.
The world is a much different place than it was in 2020.
The world is healing, folks. Coffee and Cannabis has returned.
We have returned. The world is healing.
You say something, kid.
Heavy metal music has probably taken its toll on me now. And
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad. My hearing's gone bad. I think I'm gonna get my ears checked.
But I don't know exactly what your listening habits were like. But
fuck.
Yeah, if you listen to it too loud for too long, I mean,
full blast, man. I always listen to metal music full blast.
But to be fair, I'm the same way with music in general, you know, and so
if it ain't
I think
loud,
I'm just gonna be.
Why you listening?
Yeah. Right?
That's right.
No, this is crazy. Don't go deaf.
I'm not gonna go deaf. You worry too much.
No, it's just one of my personal fears. I'm not even like I do care about you and I'm concerned about you, but it's also just a personal fear of mine. I'm like,
that would suck. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, we did an activity when I was in grade 10 or 11, I think, and we had to write what we would do. We had to pick a sense that we were going to lose, whether it was smell, touch, sight, taste, or sound, whatever. And we had to write what we would do with our last day with that sense, you know. So mine was, I think, sight, and I saw a lot of stuff. I met some celebrities, and I finished off the day. And like I would spend the whole day bringing the ones I love along with me on my adventures to see things, but like the end of the day would just be spent just, you know, sitting with those people and just looking at them and, you know, seeing them for the last time, really, which is crazy, right? Like I can't even imagine. Like I think it's worse actually in some ways to have or be born with all of your senses, and then I think the worst feeling, as I've seen with some people that I work with, right? It's like it's sad. It sucks when you're losing something, you know.
I would hate not to be able to listen to music. That would blow. That would totally suck. Like it just,
or not be able to read anymore, or you know, if I couldn't sing anymore.
And I understand that you know, some people are born with that, and some people are lose it over time, and I sympathize because I just like, I know I would adapt and I would continue living. However, that would be a struggle for me. That would be a definite huge struggle, and I sympathize with anybody who has to go through that.
But you know, I think it also makes, as I pointed out, it makes an interesting writing exercise too.
Yeah,
gets
definitely.
The juices flowing, thinking about what would happen if you know. Speaking of which,
that's a good prompt.
How's writing going? Yeah.
Terribly.
I have to ask.
You know what? I was so drained after writing those last few assignments. I took my time, and then it's not even like I took a vacation, because like the last 2 weeks weren't even that much of a vacation because I was sick, and it's hard to write when you were sick and when you're stressed out and worried and you're trying to get back to like your regular life, and then oh shit, you know, I'm trying to write something. Even writing something as simple as poetry is hard when you're sick. Because it's just your mind is just swimming in
Yeah.
whatever's wrong with you, and it's hard. It gets you all blocked up.
Yeah, I've been back on my depressed stuff, on my sad boy shit. No, just um, but also I've been consuming a lot of narratives and meeting a lot of new characters and really just trying to. It was also kind of like subconscious and a subconscious decision, to not be actively writing and instead just be reading and watching because I also just needed the distraction.
Yeah.
I needed I needed to find some relatable characters or some characters. I don't know if you do this. I'm sure you do because I think this is just a human thing when consuming any sort of narrative. But you have those characters that you look for where it's like, oh, I've made a mistake similar to that, but not as bad as this, and you're way stupider, so I feel better about myself. Just gives you a little bit of a where it's like that downwards comparison of I'm not that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also think I'm a person with a brain that's really harsh on me. Like I'm hard on myself, so like obviously I look at those things and I'm like, well, thank God. Like I need that little like boost of like, well, I'm not a bad person.
You're not a bad person.
Um,
You got this.
but it's been really making like I've really been able to let my writing ideas flow, like my fiction ideas, and also infusing. I've reached a state where I can like infuse my characters with a little more relatability, which is nice. But I'm finding that's only happening because I've allowed myself to just consume narratives and like play Skyrim and do other like story-based games and stuff like that. Detroit Become Human, obviously, also another huge influence now. And that's wicked. That's wicked storytelling. You know what I mean? In a video game
beautiful
form.
storytelling. See, that's the thing. It's like sometimes, like we could say, free writing is a good idea for writer's block, and free writing is a great idea. Just sit down and actually just do the writing. Sometimes free writing doesn't work all the time, and that's why I love just you have to You have to go and jump into different narratives. You have to try to find something that inspires you to write too. And I find gaming very much that thread of inspiration. Jumping into something like Final Fantasy is a huge story-based game. Plus, there's just and especially with Final Fantasy 15, it's all open world and there's side quests and you can just do a bunch of things. Right? It's like living inside your own universe or that universe and in another person's universe. But I find gaming for sure as like a storytelling device has always inspired me, even more so with than movies for instance, because of that open worldness of being able to just like go into a city and kind of play your own narrative.
That level of interactivity, but also choice.
Yes.
And the ability to shape the narrative, I think, is really important in the world around you.
I definitely encourage any authors or writers out there to really take advantage of gaming, especially when we talk about music, like video game music. Something that really gets you amped up for a scene, or you're trying to write an action scene. Get some of those music some of that music out playing in the background, because it's just like I've had like The Legend of Zelda in my head for a while.
I just started playing A Link to the Past again, but more recently, right? Skyrim again. Just to go back to Skyrim briefly, like when you, on the other hand, you can't like write moments like that. It almost feels like moments ripped right out of a movie or something that have been written. When you're in the middle of a big boss fight and you just you have the music Dovahkiin, and you're like fucking, you're doing some crazy finishing move on like a dragon or like a Draugr Deathlord or something. And you're just like, whoa! Like video games just provide such an opportunity for us all to be even though it's weird because we're simultaneously consuming the story and deciding what the
Just
story is.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That,
exactly.
or at least there's that illusion of choice, because of course they're
It's
like defined pathways, but still.
well, yeah, it is. There are games that give you that illusion of choice, but even that still feels that interactivity, that level of being able to shape that narrative around your own emotional states. Like if you like, there are games like Star Wars, for instance, that came like BioWare came in with Knights of the Old Republic with that choice of you could be good or evil. Fable
Right,
was very
right.
famous for that too, and you can be like, oh shit, I always was the good guy, and I've always mean to go back and play as the evil side, but I never try to never
Yeah,
do
me
it.
too. I always do that too.
I want to. I
But
want to
no,
go back to all those games and just like look at all those narrative threads because they're in there for a reason. For that reason, to be able to see some of those
yeah.
sides. Like Detroit is a perfect example. Like you're getting
Oh my God, it's
up
nuts.
to so many good parts, and I don't want to spoil most of it, all of it. But it's like you can go back and make different decisions. You can be the evil android if you want to.
I don't know why I assumed that I was almost done the game either. This game is huge, folks, and I
Is
mean,
oh yeah, you got more. I was watching where you were at, and it was yeah, you got more. It's a lot. It's a
it,
big game.
oh, and it's so cinematic.
Hmm.
It's so cinematic. Like, yet, I would say what Quantic Dream has actually achieved, which I was very skeptical of when Until Dawn came out, because I was like when it first came out, like
Hmm.
for the PS3, when it was like, and everyone was like, people were already in love with it, or like we're just interested in it, you
Yeah.
know. And I just was like, I don't know. It took me a long time to play it. When I finally played that, I was like, "Holy
I'm
shit!
down. Yeah.
There is a lot that you can do here." Like I used to hate quick time events, and that's why I was so skeptical. Because in
Yeah.
other games, I was like, "Bleh, like this is the worst," and I didn't really
You gotta pay
until
attention.
yeah, exactly. And until I played Telltale's The Walking Dead,
Yeah.
I hadn't really dug into a truly story based game, like narrative based, in a long
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was. I think those things combined really helped me embrace Until Dawn, and then Detroit Become Human, which to me has just blown my mind.
Yeah,
You know,
it does, and the cinematics in it. It's just like the cinematography, everything in that game, the voice acting.
it's brought me to
It
tears.
is a work of art, and that's something that should be
Oh,
acknowledged. It is a masterpiece. Like
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, over what I was reading the other night, over 3,000 to 4,000 pages of script written.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you imagine
I could, yeah. Well, just for all the different, like, just for all the different
possibilities?
choices, because each choice leads us to like a separate path. Like, there's a lot of different choices in that game. Like, wow.
And we'll see who lives and who dies. Like who
Yep.
in my choices that I make. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Who can I keep alive, and who will? It's just, yeah, because I always think about that too, and I think that's a classic video game mentality as well. Although I think as writers, we're often tempted as well to think about, okay, and especially I think you and I think I can safely say we like to dabble in horror. Guess what? Who would have thought? Um, and I think in writing horror, you're always kind of thinking, okay, who's gonna die, if anyone's gonna die in this? Is there already, like, there's usually a thought about death,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing, and it's
You
like,
have to. You have to sacrifice a few people. Well, especially it depends on what kind of horror you're writing. You don't have, there's certain horror movies where nobody
exactly,
dies. There is certain
that's what I'm
things
saying.
where the horror is there and it's teachable. And I find that like as I read more short stories, not all characters meet an abrupt and untimely end.
No,
But you do have to make those choices because certain people need to be punished for what they do, and part of that horror and part of horror as a narrative choice that you have to make is dealing with death in a way. You have to, if you're not going to kill all your characters, you still have to deal with that the well, what are we all ultimately afraid of is dying, right?
Or yeah, exactly. There might even just need to be that threat or that possibility of death. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's interesting though. On the other hand, because now I think about it a little bit more, and I'm like, you know, um, not everything has to revolve around death. On the other hand, of course,
Yeah.
but I think
Well, the death is there has to be the
sometimes,
threat. There has to be that
yeah,
ultimate, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I mean,
yeah,
that's the definition of sublime. I mean, really, and
no,
facing
it's true.
death and overcoming death is
Hmm.
really, I think, the ultimate goal of any kind of horror writer.
Well, even like the series that I'm developing over time, All Hallows Creek. Like I just cracked the first episode completely. I
Nice.
know down to a T. I think almost scene to scene how I want it to look and how pilot episode would essentially go.
Yeah,
But
that's nice. I can't. I don't know, man. I'm trying so hard with the House on Gore Street to just take something, but it was just like I was so sick over the last little while. So,
you
but this
gotta
week
let
I'm getting on it.
inspire.
I'm getting on it this week. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
but
happening. I'm starting with one character, and I'm just gonna build backstory, and I'm just gonna branch from there, take branches, because
and just remember, you have freedom.
oh
Don't
yeah,
feel constricted.
I'm not. It's just I needed a couple weeks.
Of course. No, you needed a break, man. You were doing essays and
Yeah.
seminars and you know.
Writers got to take a break too. Everybody's got to take a
Yeah.
break.
Coffee and cannabis.